Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Scotland and we're going to return to a brewery that has featured on the channel a couple of times before, and there has been a lot of hype around these guys recently, but based on my previous experiences with them, I would say that is very well deserved. These guys do some pretty damn good beers actually, so it's always nice to be able to review a few more other things for you here on the channel when I'm home in Scotland. For this review then, we are going to head over toward Glasgow and we're having a look at what is, I believe, my third beer from Overtone Brewing Company. So this one is one of their recent releases for December of 2020. It's called the Ironman Ipa. It comes in at 6% ABV, and I think this one should be a little bit more of a kind of bitter New England IPA. They describe this one on the back as being a traditional non-regional American IPA. It's got a London fog yeast in it, which is more New England, but then the hops in this one, Centennial, Simcoe and Chinook, that might indicate a little bit more of a kind of West Coasty bitterness level to it. So yeah, really curious to see how this one turns out. The last two beers that I had from these guys were very, very impressive. The first one that I reviewed maybe in late 2019, or mid to late 2019, I forget exactly when. That one was the Rwandan Coffee Ipa, and that beer was absolutely beautiful actually. And then the last time I was home in February 2020, I reviewed the New England Azaka Double IPA. That was very, very good as well. So yeah, very, very curious to see how this one turns out. They've had a lot of really interesting beers come out over the last little while, and fingers crossed I can review a good few things from Overtone while I'm home here in Scotland. And I hope that you guys enjoy my take on them as well. I think a lot of the reason these guys are getting quite a bit of hype at the moment is because their beers have very recently made it down into England, so more and more people are starting to find out about them actually. But yeah, definitely a brewery that you want to check out if you're interested in Scottish craft beer. But yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. So as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Overtone Brewing Company before, and you will see some more from these guys in the fairly near future. I do have one more of their beers just now, and I will see about getting more. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely, hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about Overtone Brewing Company then, on to my brewery notes. So Overtone Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Glasgow, and the company was founded back in 2018 by Bo Wang, who is originally from Beijing in China. So he'd been a home brewer for a number of years before he founded the brewery, and the name is taken from his love of music. So Bo hired Dan Miller, who's from New Hampshire over in America. He brought him in as his head brewer, and he'd previously worked as a head chef, but also as a brewer in England, New York, and he also worked for 6 Degrees North in Scotland as well. They are mainly based in the sort of Aberdeen area, but the brewery itself is in Lawrencekirk from what I understand, and they do some very nice Belgian beers actually. This is where I got this glass, so I would recommend you check them out. But also involved at the brewery is Martin Conahan, who has worked in the craft beer scene in New Zealand, and he takes part in the brewing and does lots of other things within the brewery as well. But the brewery itself can be found in the New Albion Industrial Estate in Yoker near Renfrew and Clydebank. That's where my grandparents were from originally. But they don't have a fixed range of beers, and they're always putting different things out there. Like I said, there's many beers that these guys have done that I would really love to try actually, so fingers crossed some of them do get back out there again. But they're always producing lots of different things, and as of December 2020, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced around 60 or so different beers. So yeah, quite an impressive brewery, and quite prolific, I have to say as well. I think back in February or so when I first reviewed from them, they'd only produced around 40, so they are putting things out there quite thick and fast actually. But you might have seen recently the likes of Jayco, Hopsy and Rob, and a few of the other guys. I don't know if Craig at Kent Beer Reviews was involved in that as well. I think Harry at Blue Nose Beer Reviews was, but there's been quite a few of the guys doing Overtone reviews, and they were very impressed with the quality of the beers. And like I said, when I first tried the beers back in 2019, the Rwandan Coffee IPA, that one was absolutely beautiful actually. I really enjoyed that, and the New England double IPA, the Azaka, was very nice as well. So yeah, definitely those two beers are worth checking out, and if you want to see reviews of the other ones, then you can check out those other things from Overtone Brewing as well. But yeah, that's all I can really tell you about these guys for the moment. If you want to learn more about them, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all the different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's get on and actually have a taste of this beer then. I have to say, very curious about this one. So I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork of this before we open up. As you can see, it is quite typical compared to the other ones that we've had from Overtone Brewing Company before. Oh, that's the wrong way. Perception's not working very well, but there you go. The Ironman Ipa, 6% ABV this one. Tells you on the side here, a traditional non-regional American IPA, a beer that doesn't conform, earthy American IPA with overtones of pine and citrus. I see what they did there. But yeah, the hops in this one are Centennial, Simcoe and Chinook. Chinook we know is a lovely big kind of piney resinous hop, lots of dark grapefruit and stuff in there. I think that's about 13-14% alpha acid if I remember rightly. Simcoe is about 12% alpha acid, lots of lovely kind of soft kind of passion fruity notes. It can be a bit more oily in a West Coast type IPA though, and Centennial is quite a lemony, citrusy leaning hop actually. The malts in this one are Maris Otter, oats and dextrin malt, and then the yeast is a London fog yeast. So yeah, I have a feeling that this beer, when they say it's non-traditional, I think this is probably more likely to be a very how do you say, I think this is probably likely to be quite a bitter take on the New England IPA style. But yeah, 6% IPA this one, so hopefully it turns out to be a nice beer. 440ml can, as is customary with Overtone Brewing. So without further ado, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, let's see how we get on with this one then. Really curious to see what this beer has in store for us. And this is quite a pale looking one actually, but it certainly does look impressive. This should be quite nice. So yeah, that should be good. Yeah, I'm surprised at how pale this one is. Look at that. That is pretty damn impressive. I'm not sure how well the colour is going to show up on the camera, though in fairness, when I look at the camera control, it does seem to be okay. You can see that this beer has a lovely sort of balance between being kind of a mango juice type colour and a pineapple type juice thing. But you can see solid finger and a half of a frothy, I would say perfect white head on this one. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of the head there. But I mean, overall, it does look pretty damn nice. And I have to say, the level of haze on this for a 6%er is really damn impressive, actually. That's kind of crazy. That's one of the haziest 6%ers I've ever seen for sure. I've got a spot like right up here, and there's very little coming through that. That beer is opaque as hell. That's awesome. So yeah, pretty damn impressive, like I say. But yeah, nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance when you consider what style it is. But let's have a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this one. I'm really curious about this. Yeah, that smells really nice. The Simcoe comes out of this right away. You've got those lovely soft kind of passion fruity, mango-y type notes from the Simcoe. Yeah, the Centennial, you get a lot of nice kind of lemony type citrus out of this one too. I wouldn't say that this beer comes across as really zesty or bitey or anything like that. It really just comes across as being lovely and smooth and juicy, to be quite honest with you. It's got a really nice vibe about it, this beer. Very soft, very juicy. Yeah, not what I was expecting based on what they were saying on the can, I have to say. But you know, beers can surprise you sometimes. That happens quite a lot. But yeah, lovely soft aroma to this one. Let's focus on the malty side of it. So this one to me comes across as being quite soft and white bready in the malt base. You can definitely pick out a little bit of the Maris Otter in this one. I've always found that Maris Otter gives you a kind of McVitie's digestive type aroma almost. So yeah, you do get quite a bit of that kind of note out of this beer. There's a nice wee biscuity sort of thing to it, a little bit of a straight up sweet caramel, McVitie's digestive biscuit like I say, and then a soft white bready character underneath. You don't get so much of the oats out of this one. I think this beer really comes a little bit more, it comes across as being a little bit more bready rather than anything else. But yeah, the malt base is very, very soft. There's one or two little grainy elements to it, as you're always going to get. You're going to get a wee bit of that kind of farmhousey, grainy sort of thing in there. You can quite often get that with the London fog yeasts, but yeah, it does come across really pretty nicely in this beer, I have to say. On the hoppy side of things, I mean, when you take the aroma in on this one, the green component of the beer, it's really quite, I'd say that this is more kind of grassy rather than anything else. There's a nice bit of floral aromaticity to it, as I said, but it doesn't have, you know, Chinook, you would normally expect that to have a big kind of pine resiny sort of thing to it. You get a good bit of floral aromaticity out of it, like I said. There's a little bit of a lighter kind of grassy element to the beer, but overall the green component for me is quite relaxed, to be honest with you. Again, this beer really leans towards the soft bready side of things and that kind of big juicy character that you expect of the New England. I would certainly, in terms of the aroma, describe this as a New England IPA, both from having known what it is and if I was blindfolded or whatever and blind smelling this one, I probably would come out and say that this was a New England IPA. But yeah, on the fruity side of things, it comes across very nicely. Again, you do get a wee bit of the stronger kind of passion fruity notes in there from the Simcoe, but remember, in a New England IPA, Simcoe's going to give you a lot more of a kind of softer, juicy characteristic than it would in a West Coast IPA, where it gives you a more oily note there. So the passion fruity notes come across as very soft and juicy in this one. There is a little bit of a kind of mango-y papaya type note out of this one. You've got those softer tropical notes, the papayas, the apricots, all of these kind of things. But I think the Centennial is the one that's really sitting at the front of the nose there, and it's interesting because it's a very soft, lemony character that you get out of this one. It's not sharp, it's not so zesty, it is actually just quite a juicy lemony note there. So the hoppy characteristics in this beer are really quite interesting. I do wonder with the Chinook if it's been used as the bittering hop, but from the aroma of this one, you can tell straight away this beer is not going to be madly bitter. Actually, it's not going to be crazy in terms of its bitterness. So yeah, I'm curious to see how this turns out, but this will be the moment that I'll taste it and I'll be proved wrong on the bitterness. But a lovely beer that really smells very much like a New England IPA in terms of its aroma. So let's take a look at this one and see how we get on. Do take a bit of time to enjoy that aroma though, as I always say. This one is the Ironman, an IPA coming in at 6% ABV from Overtone Brewing Company in Yoker, over, I guess you could say, towards the west side of Glasgow, this one, but fairly central. Let's get stuck in. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah, I can see what they mean about the earthy thing with this for sure. This one does have a nice wee earthy component to it, definitely. It's almost a little bit farmhousey in that sense, and when you see the ingredients that are in this one, it is actually quite surprising. Yeah. I wonder how they get the earthiness out of that, if it is a specific type of the London fog yeast that's just given it that wee bit of earthy kind of farmhousey character. But yeah, for me, I can see exactly what they mean with this one. If I was to kind of describe it, I would have probably said it was a little bit more kind of woody and earthy. Yeah, I would describe it as being a little bit more woody. It really has a bit of a woody component to it, this beer, for me. But yeah, the Overtone Brewing Company, this is pretty nice. I would compare this beer to the likes of the Alchemist ones. If you're thinking about the big breweries in up there in New England, I mean, you've got Lawson's Finest Liquids, who their beers are a little bit more kind of West Coasty leaning almost. Their IPAs are a little bit more West Coasty. You've got the Treehouse ones who are a little bit more kind of oaty. You've got the Trilliums who are a bit more kind of wheaty and bitey in my mind. You've got the Alchemist ones who are a little bit more kind of farmhousey and woody and stuff like this. And I've still not tried anything from Hill Farmstead yet. That is definitely something that I will be sorting out next summer though. You can rest assured with that. But yeah, this beer is definitely a little bit like some of the Alchemist ones that I've had before. But yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me, absolutely. But yeah, so where to start with this one then? I guess we'll just go through it the way we normally do. So straight away with this beer, you can feel that sort of nice kind of white bready kind of base just blanket in the middle of your tongue there. This is quite a yeasty leaning New England IPA for me actually. It's nowhere near as bready in the actual flavour as you were getting the impression of it being in the aroma. But yeah, you get a nice soft kind of white bready, quite thin and almost crisp white bready character just blanket in the middle of your tongue. But as you go towards the back third of your palate there, you can feel that it definitely, the graininess just gets a little bit thicker and it becomes a little bit more like a kind of wholemeal white bready sort of thing in there. Underneath that though, there are a few woody components there, and in the back corners of the palate, this beer, pardon me, does have a good little bit of earthiness there. But in fairness, I think the earthiness kind of spreads across the middle, across the back third of your palate as well as the back corners of the tongue. So yeah, there's definitely that earthy component that they're talking about in this one. So yeah, I like how it how this goes together. It's quite different. It really is quite different. More of a farmhousey, yeasty leaning New England IPA for me. So yeah. Yeah, awesome. And I guess that's one of the things, is when you're kind of specialising almost in these New England IPAs, you've got to diversify them up a little bit so that they're all different. And this one is well, it's very different obviously from the Rwandan Coffee that I had before, and the New England, the Azaka New England Double IPA, quite obviously. But I certainly like this. I really do like this one. I wonder if this is the lowest alcohol beer that I've had from them so far. That would be an interesting point. But yeah, lovely stuff. You can feel the bitterness on that back third of your palate does build up a little bit. You do get a bit of a grainy kind of bitterness coming out of this beer too, but that suits the beer again. It does. But as you move further forward onto the front third of your palate again, the middle third of your palate, sorry, you do get a little bit of the kind of smoother oaty quality in there as well, and you'll feel that the middle third of your palate, the oats come out a little bit more the further that you go into the aftertaste. But yeah, in the back third, in the back corners of your palate, then we'll move on to the hoppy side of things. I don't think we need to say so much more about the malty side of this beer, to be honest, but maybe we'll come back to it. In the back corners of your palate, there's definitely a big bit of an earthy component there. I would surmise that that's coming from the Chinook. I do remember that Chinook has quite a bit of an earthy component to it. But yeah, as you move further along the sides of the palate there, you do actually get quite a little bit of a kind of piney, resinous quality to this one, which is quite nice. And again, that would be the Chinook. To me, that would indicate that the Chinook is being used as the bittering hop. It's being added in the earlier part of the boil, and it shows more of its kind of green component, if you like. But when you go round the front curve of the tongue, you definitely get a little bit of a lighter grassy quality to the beer. And again, that suits it quite nicely. So I think in the back sides of the palate, the beer is quite earthy and resinous, but on the front part of your palate, definitely a little bit lighter and grassy in my mind. The more that I drink of this beer as well, I actually am finding that the malty base is sweetening up a little bit. Like I said, the oats start to come out a little bit more, but you also notice in the centre of your palate, there's a wee touch of a kind of I wouldn't go as far as saying like Werther's Original, but you do get a wee bit of that almost butter candy type quality out of it, and you get a bit of that biscuity note. That's the Maris Otter starting to show its head there, and some of the kind of grainy bready qualities there, those are from the Maris Otter, 100%. So yeah, you can see the malt base in this beer does sweeten it up a little bit the more you drink of it. But yeah, on the fruity side of things then, so as I always say, on the front third of your palate, you get that nice oily bubble where those juicy fruity esters start to push their way out of the beer. So if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you get a wee bit of you do get a wee touch of kind of, I don't know if it's quite strong enough to say grapefruit. I would say there's maybe a wee touch of grapefruit there, but it's more of a kind of passion fruit that you get out of this one. And as you move further forward, you can feel that the passion fruit just starts to juicing out a little bit. That's the Simcoe that's giving you that. And then as you reach the kind of front half of that front third of your palate, you can feel there's a wee bit more of you do get more of the kind of like the more zesty lemony qualities of the Centennial coming out of this one. So this is quite interesting in a lot of ways, this beer, the way the fruits go out, because it's not often that you'll see Centennial taking the lead in the way that it does in this one. Centennial is often used just to give the beer a bit more zestiness, but to see it taking the lead in this one is quite nice actually. I'd love to see these guys do a beer like the New England, the Zaka New England Double IPA with Centennial. I think that could be very interesting for them to do, so fingers crossed that's something that we see from them at some point actually. But yeah, I do like how the components of this beer go together in that sense. There's a few, I'm curious to know how they did it exactly, because some of the components you get out of this one, it can be from using old hops, it can be done from using slightly old hops, or I would say maybe they are using slightly older hops in this beer, or maybe it's the yeast, maybe it's the exact strain of the yeast that's giving you this more sort of farmhousey, earthy sort of thing actually. But this beer really does remind me a little bit more of the Alchemist ones, like I said. So yeah, it gets a thumbs up from me. I like this one. It's certainly a little bit of a curveball compared to the other ones that you'll find on the market just now. So yeah, it gets my approval, and I certainly wouldn't hesitate to drink it again. But if there are more on offer from these guys, it would be a case of, for me at this point, of just trying lots of different stuff from them. So yeah, I need to go into a few of the different bottle shops and see exactly what they've got. But yeah, this is quite nice. So in terms of the mouthfeel then, to round off the review, this one's really got quite an interesting review, because when you've got the liquid on your tongue, it's very, very juicy and almost very slick, and it feels quite clean in a lot of ways. But then when you let the flavour develop, it almost dries out quite a bit and gets more grainy and spicy and all of this kind of thing. So there's a lot going on in this one. But I would describe this beer as being at the kind of top end of mid-bodied, maybe bottom end of full-bodied. The carbonation is very smooth in this one. It does have a degree of slickness to it. It has got a bit of that kind of Scottish clean water type feel to it. It does feel very clean, this beer. But yeah, in terms of hoppy bitterness and things, I think this beer's got to be about 60, maybe 70 IBUs. It does have a fair wee bitter kick to it. It is leaning towards the top end of the scale, maybe, yeah, 60 or 70 IBUs. That might even not be generous enough for it, to be honest. So yeah, good little bitter kick out of this one. The malt base, like I said, sweetens up a little bit the further you go into the aftertaste. It's got a bit of smoothness to it, but at the same time, you get a bit of a kind of dry graininess coming out of it later on. But then you've also got a lovely juicy, fruity character to this one as well. The further you go into the aftertaste, the more oily, lemony notes come out a wee bit more, but at the same time you've got those slightly lighter, juicy tropical fruits backing it up as well. But yeah, this is a really, really quirky beer, this one. Quite different from the other two that I've had from Overtone in the past, but I definitely want to get a few more from these guys at some point, so I will need to see about what they actually have in different bottle shops and things around the country and see what we can do. I definitely want to get a few more from Overtone done at some point. I don't know, maybe they would ship to Sweden if I asked them, but we need to see. But yeah, let's leave it at that for this one. This one was the Ironman, quite a farmhousey, yeasty, grainy leaning hazy IPA for me. I really enjoyed this one, and definitely a little bit more of a bitter take on that whole kind of hazy IPA. So an interesting creation, this one, and I guess this is one of the reasons why Overtone are getting quite a bit of hype just now. So let's leave it at that. Once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Overtone Brewing Company. We will definitely return to these guys at some point fairly soon. Make sure you check out some of their beers. Make sure you check out my friends in the beer tubing scene and have a look at their reviews of the Overtone stuff as well. But definitely one of the Scottish breweries to look out for, and I certainly hope I can get a hold of a few more of their beers. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Slàinte, skål, cheers, and catch you guys later.